All right. 3, 2, 1. So when we start these shows, welcome to the Gym Life Podcast / Fit Jacked and Stacked. If you're from the local area, that is here in the Great Lakes, kind of a show for both, really. I go back and forth every week about my content. As you guys know, I do a lot of stuff, and I have a broad reach when it comes to some of the things we talk about here. With our guests and where they're from and things pertaining to our community. That's the lifting community at large throughout the United States and beyond. So there's sometimes I narrow things down a bit to my home state and my general area. And, I started that podcast, Fit Jacked and Stacked, which I guess today is kind of a hybrid show a little bit. And I just go back and forth a lot of times trying to figure out exactly how I want to present this to you guys, because it's one of those things where I don't want to leave, good pertinent information out that resonates with all of us across, the nation, I guess, and beyond. And then, of course, kind of narrow things down to what's important to the community around me here. So I go back and forth, with how I want to present these shows. And ultimately, I just thought maybe I would do kind of a part 1, part 2 kind of thing instead of, regurgitating this stuff over and over again, which isn't hard to do, honestly. It's obviously for a lot of us out there, this is a large part of our lives, I guess, as our hobbies, or some of us are more serious about it in professional statuses and things of that nature. So, it's all kind of just fun stuff to listen to. I don't mind talking about it, but I wouldn't mind just getting it all out at one time. And so I think today what we'll do is we'll talk about all the national stuff first, stuff that maybe resonates with everybody throughout the fitness, lifting, and wellness community and competitive community at large. And then towards the end, I'll switch over to some of the stuff that's more relative to the local scene. And then, of course, I invite everybody to stay on for that as well, because, some of it might resonate with you simply because you're from the state, know somebody from the state or the Great Lakes area, or just want to hear what's going on. So maybe that's the way we'll start it today. I'm open to any feedback, of course. If anybody's got any real good ideas out there, it's funny. I talked to some of my guests, and I interviewed Nick Myers last night, pro strongman, U90 guy. He's heading out to England, and we'll talk about that. But I finally got a chance to chat with him, and I've talked to Nick before, and he's a real tech-savvy guy. He understands sort of the analytics of things and how they operate and what your best opportunity for reach is and all that kind of stuff, which is important to podcasting and social media in general, as we all know. Those of us who are on social media, maybe trying to take it, to the next level with monetizing. You always hear that word out there nowadays when it comes to social media and trying to get paid by YouTube or Instagram. And I mean, that's not my thing, but I understand what it all means, because ultimately with these type of things like the shows that I do, it's important for me to get a broader reach, and you got to figure out kind of the enigma of, or solve that puzzle. You got to figure out all the ins and outs of the analytics and how it works and how things are delivered and what's going to be best viewed, and not get lost in the algorithm, so to speak. And boy, it is just a technical nightmare out there anymore. So, doing these podcasts, of course, you have to, whether you like it or not, try to understand some of that or get some people on board that can maybe help you out and lend you a little bit of insight. Nick Myers is one of those guys. Outside of being a great strongman, it was a great conversation we had after the show, and a lot during the show in respect to that sort of thing. So really kind of an interesting interview. It was something that, I enjoy. I enjoy getting to know these athletes and then find out a little something more about them above and beyond what they're doing in the sports community, and uncover some of these layers of these individuals. And Nick certainly has a lot of them. And I encourage everybody to check out that interview when I release it here in the next couple of days. It should be out shortly after, just before I release this episode here this weekend. But Nick is certainly one of those guys. He's got a ton of layers, man. His story is so cool. And of course, he's a super intellectual when it comes to this type of stuff with video and social media and reels and recording, how to deliver that for best result. And that's why I think that interview would resonate with a lot of people, whether they're in the strongman community or not, simply because Nick offers a lot of knowledge when it comes to this kind of thing that I think we're all trying to figure out. So I digress. I guess I went off on a little tangent there, but ultimately I'm just trying to figure this stuff out myself As you guys know, I'm just a musclehead at heart, and this learning curve is steep from time to time, and trying to figure out how to do things. Yeah, a little bit of a guessing game. I think it is for all of us to some degree in social media or doing this kind of stuff. And feedback's important, right? How you guys want to hear things or see things presented. I'm no Joe Rogan. I don't have a following of 6 million people, and it doesn't matter how or what I throw out there. I'm still going to capture the attention of everybody. So it's important for me to make sure that what I'm doing for you guys is resonating with you to some degree. And how I'm laying it out to you guys is important too, because there's a lot of information that I'm trying to share. And there's a lot of information out there that if you guys are looking for it, I'll find it, or at least I'll make some attempts. I know a lot of people in the industry, so it's not hard to get answers and things as I reach out to them. And as I get to know this industry even more, I can take deeper dives into it. So it just starts with you guys as far as like what you want to hear in the feedback. So please give me comments, give me feedback. I hear it all the time about my technology. Hey, Joe, you need to turn up your volume. Hey, Joe, you need to figure this out, figure that out. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And every time you guys mention something like that, of course, I try to dial it in. And even today, for instance, I'm using a different podcasting program that will hopefully lend to some better visibility on YouTube if some of you guys watch it, which is a small part of my audience. Oh, one more thing with that stuff before I lose everybody out there and before I can get onto some interesting topics. I am looking for some help here. The production's growing, we're doing a lot, or I'm doing a lot, and I've got Duante on board, of course, with me here as well. And he's got another end of it that he's kind of helping out with. But I'm looking for somebody to come in studio with me and help me produce some of my shows, because I'm a one-man band here. 9 times out of 10, I get some help here and there. But I'm looking for some more consistency with that, and some guys or gals, or guy or gal, or both, that might be interested in doing some of this stuff with me and helping me produce these shows, and travel with me a bit as well around the Great Lakes, and then of course beyond and nationally. I was just at the Olympia, going to the Arnold. I'm going to England here in a few months to do this stuff as well. And I can say that I can use some help in respect to producing these shows. You don't have to have a ton of experience. Don't be scared off. I had none when I started this stuff. I'm just looking for somebody that's real enthused about the fitness, wellness, lifting community, and it's a part of their lives like it's a part of mine, and they want to take part in this and grow this media, grow these podcasts and these shows with me. And there's no telling, sky's the limit. I mean, where that goes, who knows? It could be super lucrative at some point someday, but I can sure tell you it's a hell of a lot of fun. And to get people on board that share this enthusiasm like I do, that love this industry and love lifting like I do, I would appreciate the camaraderie. So anybody that's willing or wants to learn an industry, or wants to come on board and be a part of what I'm doing here with Gym Life Podcast, with Fit, Jacked, and Stacked. Of course, I do the live stream show for Don at ADL Live, Full Send Sports, which is going to be having a really big year this year. And then I help other podcasts out as well. Kind of a more of a philanthropy thing, getting people to join the fold, if you will, of Gym Life Media, and help sharing our audiences with one another. And so if somebody's got some podcast ideas out there as well, bring them to my attention. I'd be more than happy to help you. But where are we at today? It's been about a week, so I'm getting back on schedule here. As you guys know, over the holidays, a little bit hit and miss, 10, 12 days, 2 weeks at one point. Things are starting to roll down the tracks here again. We're getting wound up and getting ready to get out there to have a big 2023 when it comes to the entire lifting community. I did get a lot of feedback from you guys, some questions, so I'll shoot some of those out there pertaining to some things that I said, and I don't mind shedding a little more light on all that stuff. But one of the bigger things, I guess, that's coming up that's worth mentioning today, because I think it's kind of a bit of the talk of the town, is the Arnold Classic. And the Arnold Classic is something that we're all very, very familiar with out there in the lifting community, because it means something to all of us. As it started out as more of a big bodybuilding show over the last 35 years, which, oh, by the way, it's the 35-year anniversary of the Arnold Classic. And this year is a big year for that show, and I'll explain to you here in a minute why. But, the Arnold Classic, of course, pertains to every single one of us out there in the lifting community, from guys and gals who just lift weights or to stay in shape, fitness, wellness, that kind of thing. There's a lot of people there that represent those communities, especially vendors and things of that nature that take a part in that show, that share their products, share all these different ideas and things that are going on that are relevant to the community today. And then, of course, we have bodybuilding and strongman, which has now become a big, big part of that over the years. And we have, of course, powerlifting, 3 different powerlifting federations there this year, putting on really big shows. Strict curl championships, Moss wrestling, jiu-jitsu, there's a shit ton. CrossFit, anything you can think of, they're doing at the Arnold. The Arnold has kind of represented that type of show for, ever since its conception, really, because it was the first of its kind. It was a big expo that represented the community at large. And over the years, it had some really, really good years, and it led the way in Columbus, Ohio, which is awesome if you're from the Midwest. Everybody in our area from the Midwest gravitated towards that show like it was a hometown show, no matter if you're from Michigan or Pennsylvania or Wisconsin or Minnesota. You were going to that show and you took ownership of it because it was nice to have something that wasn't on the West Coast or something that wasn't on the East Coast, but something right essentially in the middle of the country. So, to no surprise, having Arnold's name behind the show, it took off to be one of the biggest expos in the country year after year after year after year. Bigger than the Olympia, bigger than any other show out there. And as a result, its template spawned a lot of these other shows out there. Fit Expo in LA, which is now a really big show. That's one. It also sparred, I'm guessing to some degree, Rob Impastato's Austin Fit Fest, and a lot of community expos like the one in Austin that Rob did this year that I'm going to be a part of in the future because Rob is a great guy with Big Tech's Gym down there, and shout out to you, Rob. So yeah, it's definitely led the way as far as like different expos and things that have now, grown up throughout our communities over the years and now have become a staple of these communities all around the United States when it comes to sharing the fitness and lifting world with everybody. And boy, they bring in everybody from around the world, essentially. And now, of course, the Arnold is everywhere around the world, South Africa, over in Europe and beyond, I think in Asia. I don't think the one in Australia anymore, but in any case, this year is pretty important to the Arnold Classic because the Arnold Classic is dying. Sadly, it's old. Sadly, it's worn out. There hasn't been any new blood there in a while. There hasn't been anything to excite anybody. The product's been very stale. The production has been even worse. So the way I understand it through the people that I've talked to, and this is kind of hearsay, guys, so don't hold me to the facts of this entirely, but in a roundabout way, the way I understand it is a new group of executives took over the Arnold Classic with the idea of resurrecting this show and making it bigger and better than it ever has been, which is a very tall task. It's not going to be easy to do that because you have to win back the love of all these people that don't go to this Arnold Classic anymore, including a lot of these organizations and competitors. And, to do that in 1 year is going to be tough, but they have nowhere to go but up. And I know they started off on the right foot by hiring ADL, by the way, ADL Live and Don Souza to come out to actually live stream the entire event for them, not just the strongman, but I think they're going to be everywhere over the course of that whole weekend. And I'm going to be down there helping Don and having some fun there myself. But that's a big step. So they got the right company in to represent them on a broader scale because we know live streaming is a big part of all this. And the way I understand it, the live streaming of the Arnold, which I didn't spectate last year, was a shit show. So we know Don produces a great product. So no doubt Don has got that handled for them. So lucky Arnold Classic executives for knowing who Don was and knowing who ADL was and hiring that company to come and do this for them because that's step number one. Step number two, of course, is just kind of replicating what they used to do in the past, having really iconic events, of course, with big names to represent those events, and then do new things as well. Things that were really awesome to spectate as a consumer as you're walking through that expo. Like the animal cage was a big part, and I'm not sure if the animal cage is coming back, but that was always a staple of the Arnold. And if anybody from the Arnold is listening to me out there, if they don't already know this, bring back the fucking animal cage. Would you please get Animal on board, do what you need to do and make it happen, or somebody to replicate that, because everybody loved that. And also too, bring on some new names and faces, right? They need to keep things relevant in the bodybuilding, strongman, powerlifting, and fitness community at large. So no doubt they're going to have a bunch of these influencers there as well, as I think we all can appreciate to some degree. Maybe it's a little overdone from time to time, but it's also a place where you discover new talent. It's a place, the Arnold has always been the kind of show throughout the entire competitive portion of it that always brought new talent on board. And you remember these people from the Arnold Classic and when they win them, right? Or they're on the podium and all of a sudden they become a household name. Like a guy that comes to mind right now is who won the Arnold Amateur back several years ago. The Arnold strongman, that is, was Alexei Novikov. I mean, there's a little does the general public know that's where that guy started, was at the Arnold Amateur and winning it, which is very cool. Bobby Thompson, who just won the America's Strongest Man, another guy that started at the Arnold Amateur. So this is a stepping stone, including the bodybuilding portion of it, and people would know that history a little bit better than me. But a lot of big names come out of the Arnold to pursue big careers and become household names throughout the lifting community at large. So it's a very cool thing, and it has that kind of history behind it. And I don't think any of us out there want the Arnold Classic to go away. And mark my words, if it doesn't do well, it is going to go away. It's not going to stick around. Not Columbus anymore. It won't completely disappear. And rumor has it there are certain people that want it to go away because they want to move it out of Columbus. So Columbus better get behind this even more than they ever had as well, to make this the destination that people want it to be and embrace this community that's coming down there, which they always have. But there's something big to lose in that Columbus area. If the Arnold goes away, that's a ton of revenue that this show generates annually. So there's a lot vested in this show. And there's a lot riding on this show this year, because this show is going to be kind of the prelude to what we're going to anticipate over the next few years, and if the Arnold actually sticks around. And I know there's a lot of legality with that, but the rumors I'm hearing are there's a certain group out there that doesn't want it to be there anymore. So I hope it doesn't go away. How sad of a day would that be if the Arnold went away? Certainly for us in the Midwest. East Coast, West Coast, they don't give a shit. Well, the East Coast should probably care a little bit. Because if you think about what's, west or east of the Mississippi, as far as expos are concerned, there's not a whole lot east of the Mississippi. I can hardly think of any outside of the Arnold. And then, of course, you got the LA Fit Expo, and you've got the Austin Fit Expo, and you've got the Legion now in Reno, Nevada. That's going to be huge by Chris Minez, who does that out there. And that's going to be a huge event, and he's going after it. He's the kind of guy that's going to have the next Arnold in Reno, honestly, called the Legion Sports Fest, of course. So there's a lot going on out west. There's nothing going on back towards the east or the Midwest. So God forbid the Arnold goes away. That would suck for a lot of people, for travel and the convenience of it, and just to represent this community better over here on this side of the Mississippi. Now, I will tell you, the Olympia now is going to be back at Orlando next year. I'm no conspiratist, but maybe they know something we don't know, right? I mean, the Olympia mates might be thinking there's blood in the water here. The Arnold might be going away. And if the blood in the water says that the Arnold is going away, why not get their foothold back in Florida? Everybody says how great Las Vegas was, and it was great. But, you got to make you wonder why they'd want to move back to Orlando. I mean, maybe some things were cheaper, but I can tell you right now, there's more to it than that, and it could be the fact that if the Arnold goes away, the Olympia will be the only thing over here on the east side of the country representing the fitness and lifting community at large. So maybe that's a power play on their part. Maybe they do smell the blood in the water. I don't know. I hope not. I will say that we're going into this year's Arnold, and it's interesting, really interesting, as a matter of fact. The bodybuilding show is atrocious. Let's just say that straight off the bat. I know, listen, I'm not knocking bodybuilding when I say this, but when you only have 7 guys in the open class, let me repeat that, 7 guys. And that was 6, as of yesterday. Apparently, Nick Walker decided he's going to enter the show now. And lo and behold, when they raised the prize money up from $200,000 to the first place winner to $300,000 to the first place winner, Nick Walker decides he's going to enter the show, which is hilarious to me, honestly. what 200,000 wasn't enough money for this guy, but what he saw was a weak class. Listen, they've got Sean Clarita in this class, who was the 212 winner, who's awesome, by the way. I love him, but he's a tiny guy, right? He's actually in the Arnold Classic in the Open. And listen, if bodybuilding is truly judged by not size and how you look, yeah, okay, he's going to do really well, but none of us believe that, right? He's not going to stand next to a guy like Nick Walker or Samson Dadu and look like he does against all these other 212s. He's just not going to. I'm not buying it. And if the guy won the show, that should say a lot about, I don't know. It really gives you mixed sort of feelings about the whole bodybuilding judging and all that stuff again as well, because I'm not so sure that that's what we want to see, right? I mean, but good for him. He's in the show, and he's probably going to do well. I would say arguably he's going to make the top 3 or top 4. Certainly with 7 guys, that's not going to be hard to do. But get back to the point, right? 7 guys in an open bodybuilding show where first place is now $300,000. Second place is $125,000. Third place is $70,000. So just to get ready for the show, do the show, you have a chance to literally make a year's wages. I mean, I guess for some of these guys more, of course, because it costs a lot to do what they're doing. But it's just nuts to me. And listen, this group of bodybuilders, they're all pros. I'm going to sound like I'm being a hater, and I'm not. But you know how they come up with these invites, guys? They literally invite the top guys in the country, right? Starting from number 1, going right down to whatever it is, 10, 20, I don't know. It's an invitational. And if you want to be considered in these invites, if you're not a part of that select group, then you apply for it, and then they review it and they go, okay, whether you're worthy or not to come to the Arnold. None of these guys outside of Nick Walker, who just joined today, were in the top 5 at the Olympia, which is surprising because that's a huge prize, which years ago, if you look at the history of the Arnold, they were always getting these top Olympians at the show. It was like the second show of the year or the first show of the year for everybody leading up to the Olympia. And so it amazes me how watered down this open bodybuilding is. And get this. The classic division, which is my favorite division, that's Chris Bumstead's division, for those of you who don't know bodybuilding, they have 8 guys in that class. They have 8 guys. Now, the rest of the classes, the fitness, the wellness, the bikini, they're awesome. They have a deep, deep pool of competitors. They're all champions. It's exactly the way you would expect the Arnold Classic to represent the rest of the bodybuilding professionals out there. But boy, that classic division and that open division is it's just sad. It's just so sad. And there's just nobody in those classes. So thank God Nick Walker's coming in, right? And he's going, fuck, this is the easiest paycheck I ever made. Because how can they take the guy that came in 3rd at the Olympia, put him up against all these other guys, and he's going to come in shape, guys. These guys generally always dial it in to some degree. And he's certainly not going against the hardest competition that he's faced. How can he not win this show? How can he not? And honestly, if bodybuilding's got a little politics behind it, like we know it does, how could they not give it to him? He just came in 3rd at the Olympia. And oh, by the way, he probably should have been 2nd. I said it last week, and I'll say it again. Yeah, the more I look at it, he probably was 2nd. And even Nick came out and said I should have been 2nd. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. You probably should have been. So you're going to take the 2nd place winner in the Olympia, put him in the Arnold against 6 nobodies, essentially. His only competition there, in my opinion, outside of Sean Clarita, which is not competition for an open bodybuilder. Just sorry, guys, it's not. That's ridiculous. The guy's like not even 5 foot tall. Love him to death, but it's just not competition to be in the open class. Is maybe Samson Dadu. That's it. Now, mind you, that could be interesting, right? If he dials it in and Nick doesn't, ultimately that could be an upset, or a great resume builder for Samson, because he should have beat Big Ramy. He shouldn't have took 6th. He should have been 5th at least, maybe 4th. So he's certainly making a case for himself, and he's on the rise. He's on the move up. So this could be a good show for him to. Well, he could have came in first, honestly, until Nick Walker joined the show. Now it'll be a battle, but a 1-2 there. Can I call it right now? Nick Walker, Samson Dadu, Sean Clarita, 1, 2, 3. Boy, that was really hard to do. We don't even have to do this show now. That's fine. Let's just give the money to those 3 guys. Don't even bother. Put some other guys up on the stage. Do something different, because those are your top 3 right now. That's it. Classic, don't care. There's nobody there that I even care about. And then, of course, the rest of them, bikini and wellness and figure, or bikini wellness. And they don't have figure there this year, by the way. They took that out, which is weird. That's a huge class. They have bikini, wellness, and fitness, I think it is. which I'd like to know the story behind that figure thing. But I think the other thing to note here is, do you know, here's a little Arnold trivia for you guys. Drink of water. The first place prize for the Arnold Classic is $300,000 to win the open class. I didn't do the math outside of in my head, but if you combine all other prizes, I mean all of them, guys, in the open class, in the classic class, figure, wellness, and bikini, wellness, and fitness, the one winner, that being Nick Walker, we're going to say it right now, is going to make more money winning that Arnold Open than every other competitor from every other class combined. Do you see a problem with that? I do. I see a huge problem with that. I see a huge disconnect with that, with the IFBB and bodybuilding in general. If bodybuilding really believes that the open men's class is their most popular class right now, they aren't listening to the public. They don't understand what's going on, and there's a complete disconnect. The general public doesn't sway that heavily in the direction of open bodybuilding anymore. I'm here to tell you guys, they don't. Classic bodybuilding is very close behind them. There are more and more people every single day appreciating the classic bodybuilding class than they are the open class, in large part thanks to Chris Bumstead. That goes without saying. The guy is fantastic. And I told you guys last week, he's the number one, I guess you could say, most popular bodybuilder on the planet. And he's from the classic division. So there you go. There's a perfect example why. And then everybody else is loving this wellness division. They're loving the bikini division, certainly the wellness division. I mean, I'm talking everybody likes that, including the women out there who are or aren't in the wellness division. So, you know, they need to get a clue what's going on, these people that make these prize packages, because I could tell you right now, there is not an open bodybuilder short of Arnold, the resurrection of Arnold coming back, who was as popular or slightly popular then, or you can argue either way, Chris Bumstead, or maybe Ronnie Coleman, or one of these other big names like Jay Cutler coming out of nowhere, right? And dialing the clock back 20 years to get on stage that anybody wants to see win $300,000. Good for the open bodybuilding class winner. I get that. I'm not taking away from a guy's opportunity to make a buck. But isn't there some disparity there? Couldn't that money be shuffled around a bit? And maybe it's just tied into sponsors that say, hey, this is where we're throwing our money. And if that's the case, maybe somebody needs to talk to these sponsors, give them a better idea what's going on in the community as well, because I highly disagree. And I don't know. I'm guessing there's a lot of people out there that are on my side on this. That is a ton of money to give one guy while everybody else gets a pittance. The classic winner gets $70,000. So he's equivalent to the third place winner in the open class. And the rest of the guys, honestly, it's not even worth their time going. So maybe, just maybe, oh, there it is, right, guys? Maybe, just maybe, the reason they can't get anybody to compete at this fucking show is because they don't pay them anything. Either you come in first or you starve. Outside the first and second place winners of each class, which arguably the first and second place winners of any other class outside of Classic and Open, they're not making any money to come to this show. Do you realize what it costs for these pros to get ready for these shows? And I don't have to tell you why, besides eating and supplements and everything else. It's a fortune to get ready for a show. And they're going to slap these guys and gals in the face with $2,000 and $1,000 and these joke of a prize purses going down the line. Yeah, no shit, IFBB and Arnold Classic. There's no wonder nobody wants to compete at your show. Wow, big surprise. Thank God for the podcast guy pointing that out, right? And I'm not. I know that, guys. I'm just being silly, but I don't think I'm the only one that realizes that. It's a joke. Joke, joke, and they need to get it right. So if they can get everything else right at the Arnold Classic this year, which I believe honestly doesn't even evolve around bodybuilding anymore, and for us to even correlate that is silly. It's equally as big for strongman. It's equally as big for everything else. Listen, that strongman stage is going to get a shit ton of people watching it, as they do every year. Honestly, it's a shot heard around the world. Generally, that show is a bigger on social media through all the lifting community, because these guys are and what they do there on that main stage is pretty awesome. And then, of course, they have the women's this year, the new women's class, so it's $75,000 going to that class as well, which is awesome. It's not as much as the guys as you can imagine, but it's getting there, and I think all the women appreciate that. The opportunity to compete for a large prize purse at a big show, is an awesome step in the right direction. We'd like to see that get bigger. We're not complaining. So those two shows combined, and then you add everything else on top of it. You got $90,000 the USAPL is given to their winners, and that big show or big contest that they're doing there, I think, is a pro-am. And then XPC is going to be there. Of course, they've got a good prize package as well. So yeah, it's not the bodybuilding guys that makes the Arnold Classic anymore. And anybody that would imply that is just silly. That show has evolved to be a bigger show to represent the entire lifting community, and they're just still hanging their hat on the open bodybuilding portion of it. Listen, that burned out the older Arnold got. People cared less, and even Arnold doesn't even care about that. Through the grapevine, if you guys didn't know, Arnold doesn't even like open bodybuilding. He's not an open bodybuilding fan at all. Maybe that's in large part why this show seems to be dying a bit on the bodybuilding side of things. Just guessing. That's just my theory. But it does make sense, doesn't it? Because Arnold doesn't want any part of this shit. He loves the classic guys. He hates the open class. He don't think they represent bodybuilding the way they need to be represented. And a lot of people agree with him. I mean, I think up until this year, I probably did too, but I didn't mind that top 3 at the Olympia. I thought it was pretty good. So in any case, you can make your argument in a lot of different directions when it comes to the Arnold. But this year is very, very important to that organization. It's important to the rest of us in our community around the Great Lakes and Midwest and East and Southeast, because we don't want to see that go away. So I would recommend to everybody out there, and we'll talk more about the Arnold as we get closer to the show, just to get ready to support that show. Get down there, see it, watch it, support the live stream, get on it, and, make this work. If you don't want to see this show go away, at least give it one more chance. And if they disappoint, then don't come back. But I will tell everybody out there right now, this is an opportunity to get behind the reinvention of a show at this 35-year anniversary. And again, they hired ADL Live, for God's sake. And if they're doing that, they already started doing something right, because we already know Don's going to produce one hell of a show for the live stream. That should take care of the viewing audience. Now we just need to get people there in person. And I think if we can do that, maybe we can grow this show even bigger for all the sports we love and get behind this a little bit. And I'd love to see that expo even get better as well. You used to go down to that Arnold Expo, and that was just the place to be. I mean, it's a bit shoulder to shoulder as they are, or it was for a long time. And that turned off a lot of people because it was a bit of a shit show in that respect. But I think we can all honestly say we'd much rather have that than have no Arnold Expo at all. So there we go. That's my Arnold talk today. We're going to get more on that though, because there's so much good things happening with that, especially from the competitor standpoint. There's a lot of big names going there, not necessarily in bodybuilding, but there certainly are big names going there from all the other different competitions they're going to have there, including the strongman and powerlifting. So that'll be fun to point some of those particulars out, and we'll do that as we get closer to the show, which, by the way, is only 6 weeks away or 7 weeks away now. So it's sneaking up on us pretty quick. Oh, I had a question last week, or not a question. I made a comment. I don't know if you guys heard me say this, and I don't even know where I said it at now, outside of Victoria Long interview. That's America's Strongest Woman that I did. And if you haven't had a chance to see that interview, I would recommend everybody go watch it. Victoria is one special lady. She's incredibly humble. She's somebody that flies under the radar, and God, I don't know why. I mean, certainly in the strongman community, she doesn't. I'm not suggesting that. Everybody knows who Victoria Long is, but she is an amazing strong woman, arguably the most incredible strong woman on planet Earth right now. I mean, she, of course, walks that with other women as well that are equally as good or as well known. But Victoria, I still got to give it to her. She's just doing things like a 300-pound overhead log press. She did a 350-pound sandbag over a bar. She's an amazing athlete. She doesn't have a weakness, which, by the way, she verified. I don't have a weakness. I didn't think she did. And I don't think anybody would believe her if she said she did. But anyhow, I did an interview with her, and that interview was awesome. And I brought up a comment there, a question, or what am I saying? I said something to Victoria that she talked about coming back in 2023, and there's putting some pressure on herself in a good way to keep performing and keep doing well. And I made a comment where I said, yeah, we need our champions. The sport of strongman needs its champions. And I had a comment come through, and I don't think it was meant to be anything other than, what do you mean? You said we need champions, but we always have champions. That, if you listen to it, or maybe I didn't articulate myself well enough, particularly in strongman, you can argue this in powerlifting too. We need our champions to stick around a while. And as much as we want to see competition out there, which we do, we never want to see our champions just walk to the top of the podium with ease, right? We always want a little battle. Whether it's a game 5 or game 6, you never want to see a sweep in the World Series. Game 7's always nice. You want to see these champions challenged, and you want to see them, get back to the top of the podium, because that makes for great fodder, right? Great storylines, great plot lines, great drama. We want to see that because we give it to our champions more than we embrace them more when we see they fought hard to get back to the top. But it's got to happen more than once. And what I'm getting at is, when we're trying to build a sport like strongman, we have to cheer on, and I get it, we cheer on everybody. So I'm not suggesting that nobody else is qualified to be there. But when we see somebody like Victoria, and she's doing well, and she's dominating the world, and she's dominating everybody else in the United States for that matter in her class, I get behind her because I want to see her become a repeat champion. Not just because I like Victoria and I think she's really, really, really good. I want to see her become a repeat champion because it's important for the sport to grow when the athletes' names become more recognizable. When we hear a name over and over again at the top, before you know it, it starts getting into all the corners of all the community, all the lifting community. And then it gets beyond that. Then it starts getting in the corners of conversations at bars and at restaurants when other sports are on, or there's a commercial that shows strong women. Oh, do you know who that Victoria Long is? Do you know who she is? And now this starts a conversation between just normal spectators and consumers, and not people that are a part of the sport. That's how we grow interest in sport. We need our champions. Let me ask you a question out there. If Brian Shaw only won one World's Strongest Man, would he be as popular today and have the influence and impact that he's had on the strongman community and the sport of strongman at large over the last several years? I think that answer is no. I think it's a resounding no. As great as Brian Shaw is, if only one championship came out of his run, which, oh, by the way, he's coming back one more year this year, which is great to hear. Honestly, Brian, you know, no surprise, you're that good. He's always making a run at the top, but he's probably ready to move on and do other things. Maybe his body's hurting a little bit too. But if Brian Shaw only won one championship outside of the strongman community, would everybody really know Brian Shaw like we know Brian Shaw? Brian Shaw is a household name. I'm here to tell you. If you ask 100 people tomorrow that aren't in the strongman or lifting community, or let's just say not in the strongman community, and ask them if they know any strongmen or strong women, and I don't mean Jimmy or Johnny or Susie down the street that competes locally, but a professional. Ask them if they know a professional strong person. I guarantee you their only answer, if there is any other answer, will be Brian Shaw. And there's a reason for that. It's because he was a repeat champion. It took a while for this to kind of marinate, right? I mean, this whole idea that there's somebody doing very, very well for the United States and representing America, not just the world, but America in our strongman scene, that if he would have only won one show, it would have been forgotten about as quick as the winner did the following year. But since he's won 4, and even you can say he could have stopped at 3, maybe 2, right? Maybe 2. He still would have been a pretty popular character. But because he did so well and he's been a consistent performer at the highest level, taking 4 first, I think, Brian, and he took 2 or 3 seconds and a third. I mean, he's been at the top consistently over and over again. And that's what I said to Victoria. You don't even really have to win. You just got to make the podium, right? Because you're always going to be in the mix at that point. But winning is so important. Keeping our champions is so important because it allows things to marinate in people's minds. You're not just hearing it for 1 year leading up to the next. Now you're hearing it for 2. And then maybe it dies off a little of the 3rd because he didn't win it. But then he's right back in the 4th year. So you get what I'm saying out there? This is so important for us to rally our champions on. And I'm talking to you sponsors a little bit because they need your help. When you have somebody as popular in the community, the strongman community, and is dominating as somebody like Victoria Long, obviously we all need to get behind her and support her from a national level to win over the world. But sponsors need to get behind her as well, because they're the ones that are going to benefit the most, and we're going to benefit the most with them loving our athletes, because they're going to provide opportunity and incentive for our athletes to continue to compete at a high level and put forth 100% effort and the resources to do so. Without that, you couldn't blame somebody for winning one competition, maybe outside the world's strongest man, right? Because they don't pay them too bad. Actually, you don't get paid a lot for that. But you know what I'm saying. We don't blame a lot of people for winning in our sport right now and not being around maybe a following year or two, simply because it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of resources. It's a lot of dedication. It's a lot of away from family. It's a lot of travel just to keep doing this shit because you love doing it. I think there's a lot of pros that would argue out there right now, I wish I was still an amateur because I had way more fun. So we want to see our champions do well to grow this sport, to grow the consumership, to become a household name, so it could give other people and other athletes coming up through our community, our strength community and strongman community, those opportunities. Because right now we're in a very fragile state, and we're in a new state. This is kind of outside of Brian Shaw and maybe a couple other athletes that have made their way okay in our sport, there just haven't been any others. And I would argue anybody to tell me somebody different that's done as well, and there hasn't been. And I get it. Brian Shaw has had a better opportunity because of where we're at when he started coming up through the sport as a champion. And maybe not right away either, because he's been around for a while. But more recently, through social media and these other platforms, Brian Shaw has become a household name. And that is so good for us. But he only became a household name because he's a champion. And he's a repeat champion. And he's a guy that continued to put his name out there as a winner. And all of a sudden, people started remembering who he was. And that by itself has grown our sport. Now imagine if we can have 3 or 4 or 5 Brian Shaw type people. I know a lot of people are going, that's crazy, Joe. Brian Shaw is Brian Shaw. I get that. I'm not saying that anybody's be as good as Brian Shaw or as popular as Brian Shaw. But there's room for others to become as recognizable and to do well in the sport by winning and becoming household names. And now you're a conversation or a part of a conversation that's being had at a gym or a 24-hour fitness place or a bar or a party, or you're hanging out somewhere, and now you're talking about somebody that nobody else really knows who they are, only because you're a fan of the sport and you remember the name. Or you're not a fan of the sport and you simply remember the name. Boy, when you can get to the point where you're resonating with people who aren't in the strongman community, and I can go into a group of people that don't have a clue about our sport, and I can say to them, who do you know from strongman? What pros do you know? And when I can start hearing names outside of Brian Shaw, yeah, all right, I'm feeling pretty good. And I know that day is coming, guys. So that's what I've been about. We need to support our champions. We need to keep our champions champions. And I'm not saying give it to them. I'm not saying give them those titles. They still got to earn it. And boy, I want to see them earn it in Game 7. I want to see them earn it on the Stones, 5th event, 6th event. I want to see them earn it on day 3, because that will provide more drama, and that drama resonates with people. It gets people excited. People start tuning in going, what's going on over here? Why is everybody staring over there? Why is everybody pointing in that direction? Because something big is going to start going down. Something big is going to happen soon. And that's what we all love to see. I don't care if you're a baseball fan or not. You hear a Game 7, that's a pretty impressive series, right? These people are, whether you're into the sport or into, a shootout in hockey, or you're into an overtime in any sport for that matter, when the championship's on the line, maybe the next day, whether you're a fan of that sport or not, you're always saying, hey, who won that game last night? Or you're hearing other people talk about it and you're remembering those names. So I think that's enough about that. I think you guys get where I'm coming from. I'll go on and on as I pop a cough drop, by the way. Damn this Michigan weather. It is just shitty out there. It's like wet and rainy, and it's wintertime. Everybody's sick again, which never seems to go away. I don't get much worse than a sore throat myself these days, but maybe because I talk a lot too, but man, oh man, my buddy right now is just, I called him up the other day on the phone and he sounded fucking terrible. I told him to go to the hospital. I'm like, dude, you got to go to the hospital, man. You don't sound good at all. He had it deep in his chest. So hopefully, Tony, you're doing all right out there right now. Shout out to my buddy, Tony. And Tony's back in the gym, by the way. How awesome is that? Guy took a lot of time off. Wasn't sure if he was going to make it back. Kind of, you can hear it in the conversation. I'm going to get back soon. I'm not, kind of thing. He's back, baby. And now he gets sick. A week later, he gets sick. How fucked up is that? Oh, the soreness will happen all over again, Tony. And you'll be able to make your comeback nonetheless, because I'll be right behind you, pushing you and making fun of you if you don't. So, all right. So, yeah, that's my champions thing. All right. So where are we at? There's just so much good stuff to talk about, honestly. And I guess every now and then I just try to pick a topic or two that might mean something to you guys or resonate with a few of you out there or get you guys going in the right direction. There's a lot of good things that are going to come up here in the state this year, still being January. We're kind of looking out a little bit to see what's going to be going on and kind of talking about that. As it gets closer, we'll certainly talk about these things in more and more detail as we get more and more information about all of them. And I have some other great questions as well, and I may even fit in an extra show here and there to try to catch up a little bit on some of this content that all you guys are providing me out there, which I really appreciate. Because ultimately I'd like to try to keep these shows within an hour or two, but who knows? I mean, it just might get to the point where I just kind of get everything out at once and make sure I got enough bottles of water in front of me and a snack here or there just to keep myself going. But ultimately, I think we could probably get, at least I'm going to make an effort to in the future to get as much of everything I'm getting at one time, because as I mentioned at the start of the show, being a one-man band here, it's not overwhelming by any stretch, but there's just so much information in front of me that if I was able to organize it a bit better, I can probably get it out to you guys a bit better. That's why this will be my second call out during the show. In my area, or in the Michigan area, if anybody out there is looking to be a part of what I got going on here, that of course is all the podcasting stuff and other shows that I'm a part of. I can use the help. And if anybody out there is looking to be a part of something in our lifting community, like what I got going on here, and have a lot of fun doing it. Listen, guys, I'm not trying to oversell it, but this shit is a fucking blast. I love being just knee deep and lifting stuff and the culture and the people and the competitors and the fans and all that kind of stuff on a daily basis. I'd rather be doing nothing else. And I can assure you, if you have the same kind of passion and excitement as I do for all the lifting community and all the sports and people that are involved in this and fitness and wellness community at large, you will not be disappointed. We have some pretty fun times over here. As you know, we went to the Olympia this year. We're going to the Arnold. I'm going over to England again, as I mentioned at the start of the show. We're going to be a part of all kinds of events throughout the state of Michigan this year. And that's front row seats and being a chance to meet all these people and, be a part of these shows on a different level. And I would really, really love to get some people on board with me, at least one or two guys, gals, whatever, to take part in all the fun that I'm having over here. And I can certainly use the help. Having some people help produce these shows would be wonderful. You don't have to have any experience. I didn't when I started this stuff. I had a steep learning curve with good help from my old partner, Robbie. And as you guys know, we podcasted together for the first year. He's off to different things now and loving life. And I talk to him pretty regularly. But I'm looking for, somebody to come in and maybe help me produce some of this stuff and lead some new ideas and some new, thoughts to everything that I'm doing, because, sometimes we get caught in our own way, and how we're doing things and how we're laying them out and overthink things and maybe not do things like they should be done simply because we're not really getting outside of our own thoughts. So I would love to bring some people on. So please let me know if there's anybody out there that's listening to this podcast or know anybody out there in the Michigan area that might just be a perfect fit for something like this and learn something too. I mean, this podcasting stuff is fun stuff, guys. And I do a lot more than that, as you know, with my live shows and the things that I'm doing with live streaming and everything else. And be more than happy to I'm no master at it, but I'd be more than happy to share the knowledge that I've learned so far too, if anybody's interested in getting involved in this kind of thing. So please don't hesitate to call. So that's the second time I did this podcast. It tells you how important it is. Of course, you guys know I repeat myself all the time. So what's going on in the Great Lakes, guys? I can tell you right now, the gyms are packed. They're incredibly packed out there. There's a lot of resolutionists out there that are making their way through this gym world, and we hope we retain many of them. Even though I get it, a lot of you guys are just, have had enough going to the gym at 4 or 5 o'clock and not being able to get on a machine or a bench press or whatever it is you're doing because there's just too many damn people in the gym. That's a good problem to have. Come on now, let's all embrace that. We want as many people as we can possibly get to, stick around. We want them to keep working out, lifting, fall in love with the stuff that we're doing, the sports and the competitions and just the everyday lifting and being a part of our community. So let's embrace them as much as we want to punch them in the face, as much as we laugh at them for the silly things they're doing in the gym right now. But we all know, sadly, only about 10% of them will even stick around, and we're probably going to lose about 90% by March. And by the time June comes around or any first nice day, we'll lose the rest of them. So there's be proud of yourselves out there, guys, that have stuck with it as long as we all have. But yeah, Michigan, that's Michigan for you. And that's everywhere around the world, as a matter of fact, but particularly in Michigan, in the Great Lakes area, simply because we have shit weather pretty much from now until like the first part of April. So there really is nothing better to do than watch sports or be in the gym getting ready to look good in the summertime. At the very least, be ready to put that beach body on, which many of us aren't even going to get that start until April 1st, when we realize we're almost out of time, and then it's probably too late anyhow. But ultimately, we're all going to try to get there. And every year I always say, I'm going to do it sooner this year. I'm going to get in shape sooner. Then I'm a strongman, and I just realized I don't really have to get in shape. This is what they call a power belly here. This is a power belly. For my good friends over at Hosswear. I had that shirt once. I don't know the fuck I did with it. Best damn shirt ever. It said Power Belly on it. Made complete sense. From what I understand, it's not exactly what I'm talking about right now, but that's what I always said it was for. So, but maybe this year I'll put just flatten it out a bit. I don't even want to say abs anymore. That's not even fair. I just have been lying to myself for like 20 years now. Listen, I'm never going to see my abs, all right? Ever. But as long as my chest is bigger than my stomach, some can argue it's been back and forth over the years. That's good enough for me. So everybody's got their goals. Everybody's got their goals. Mine is just to be broad-shouldered, big-chested, big-armed, now big legs since I got my hip fixed, and just look ominous. That's all I want to do is look ominous. We'll leave it up to the betas and the small classic guys and the physique guys to look good in board shorts. I think I might wear a Speedo this year. No, I will not. All right, Fit, Jacked, and Stacked, Michigan, Great Lakes, and beyond. Everybody on our borders, Canada. By the way, I got about 30 minutes here, and I got an interview with Isaac Mays from Canada. He won the Clash on the Coast last year. He's coming back this year for us to try to defend his title. So it's been looking forward to talking to Isaac. He's a character. He's got a lot of opinions, and I can't wait to have that conversation with him. And for those of you that didn't hear me in the first part of the show, Nick Meyer's interview is going to be dropping here today. And then I have a lot of big interviews coming up. I understand we might be in contact with Fuad in the bodybuilding scene. Lee Priest, be working with Monica Brandt to get you more of Lee Priest and some of these other bodybuilders. Samson Dadu, who took 6th at the Olympia, who signed up for the Arnold, as I mentioned earlier. I have an interview with him and Monica, kind of co-hosting her show with some interviews, kind of like what I'm doing here, which is a great opportunity to meet some of these pros in that realm, at that level, which, I'm not connected to like I wish I was, but that gets me an opportunity to get closer to some other people as well that I can bring out to you, all you guys out there. So get ready for all that excitement. And I'm still waiting for Danny Spiegel to call me and get back with me because I would love to interview Danny Spiegel. As you know, who doesn't want to talk to Danny Spiegel? If you know who Danny Spiegel is, look her up on Instagram, and you'll never forget what you're looking at. Okay, enough of that sexist talk on my part, the perversion that often comes with some of my banter. Okay, War of the North, announcement to make. I don't have many announcements on it, but I have two anyhow. George has got some pretty badass cups that he made. They're plastic cups with War of the North on them. You guys can use your imagination what those cups might be for. I don't know. Can't pass along any more information than that. I can tell you right now that if you haven't seen the video of George in this War of the North, what do you want to call it? Backdrop, right? What he built for this show. That's going to be inside of this CrossFit facility up in Traverse City. Get on Instagram and look at these videos under Great Lakes Strongest Man. George is going above and beyond once again to produce a show that we're all going to be happy we're a part of. This fucking thing looks like a dungeon when it's all said and done. When he's not kidding. When he said it was going to look the part, wall to wall, this thing's going to look like a dungeon. It's going to have, of course, the smoke machines and lights and all that stuff. And it's a strongman show in February, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's only got one guest per competitor, so it's a very closed, sort of show when it comes to who's going to be allowed in. So very exclusive in that sense. There's going to be a DJ there, from what I understand. There may be some other surprises. Well, I have to tell you there will be. I just can't disclose them to you at this point. Then, of course, there's probably, there is, I think, right? Because that was the last one. There's 60 competitors that are going to be competing here. Big names. Urban's on there. Jake, of course, is on there. Jake Harmon. The who's who of Michigan essentially is going to be there. And I'm going to be there as well, which I wouldn't put myself on that list. But I certainly would say I'm ready to compete and have a good time. Now, I'm here to announce to all of you. Sadly, I cannot compete in the open class. And I know. Everybody wanted to see me to kick the ass of all those heavyweight guys that are 20 years younger than me, as much as I did. And, but they're fragile. Those guys are fragile. They come from a different generation of lifting. Could you just imagine if a guy my age came in and beat those guys? What a therapeutic mess that would be. Like some psychological train wreck that would just destroy these guys and potentially just fuck them up for life. I mean, they may not even be able to do strongman anymore if essentially their adopted father came in and beat them all. I mean, I get it. I look young, but I'm not young, guys. And I know what it would do to the psyche of these young guys out there. They're barely hanging on as alpha males as it is. Most of them are betas still. Oh my God, can you imagine? Some of them might, who knows? I mean, I don't want to sound in. I'm just saying that transitioning is not out of the question for some of these guys still. Is that wrong of me to say? I don't think it is. I didn't mean anything by it. All I'm saying is that I'm not quite sure they know their identity to this point, and their pronouns may be not what I think they are. And if I kind of go into the fragile psyche of all this with these guys and whip them like I think I would, this could just be something that the strongman community doesn't want to deal with at a local level. So I have decided, that's right, I've decided that I'm going to compete as a master in this show. Because as we all know, masters guys are older, they're wiser, they are set in their ways, and they're been through all the battles of life, and you can't rattle their cages. They've been around long enough to know that even if they get beat, they're still going to keep their shit in a pile. They're going to be okay with it. They'll man up, they'll get better, and they'll get ready for the next competition. So that's why I'm going to compete with the Masters guys. I'm more confident that they can take a good beating compared to the open guys, and I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to jack those open guys up. So anyhow, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Now, the other story may be because if I competed as an open guy in a USS show and I qualified for nationals, I would only qualify in the open class, and that in itself would disqualify me for competing in the Masters national class. And that, of course, would give me all kinds of problems when I'm trying to take over the world in the Masters class next year. See how that works? So, I mean, that's the other reason, I guess. So I guess, take one, take the other, whichever one you want to use. I got to compete in the Masters class this year, and I'm looking forward to it. Of course, I wouldn't miss this show for anything. And I'm ready. Listen, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to get in and mix it up with these guys, and I'm taking nothing for granted because, as we know, strongman is not a sport that you, guess you could say, you want to walk in well, confident, yes, for sure. But, you better be ready for the worst, and any type of one-off situation, you better be able to keep yourself together mentally because you can throw off a competition pretty quickly. As my good friend Nick Myers was telling me a story about his first OSG competition last night in on my interview with him. So in any case, I'm ready to compete. I'm going to have fun up there. So that's February 17th. George, 17th, 18th. It's that weekend. Okay. Saturday. I can't remember now. And that's going to be a great show. And I can't wait to get up there to be a part of that. It's going to be in the evening time too, which is really nice for a lot of us. I think the weigh-ins are in the morning still. So we're going to have an opportunity to weigh in if you need that, which I don't. And then you're going to be able to get out there, get some food in you, and be ready to compete and get ready to drink some beer after the show. It's going to be that kind of show. We're all going to be hanging out in Traverse City on a cold winter night. We're going to find a nice, warm, cozy pub right after, and we're going to hang out and enjoy each other's company. And I can't wait to do that because I think by that time, we're all going to be looking forward to a weekend escape from all this winter madness that we're going to be a part of here in Michigan. So War of the North. The Kalamazoo Raw Strength has got Inez Carrasquillo, who's coming in. She's a professional strong woman. She's competing at the Arnold Pro this year. She just took second at America's Strongest Woman, second or third, I think, Inez. And of course, she just wins everything else she's a part of. She is a wealth of knowledge. She's an amazing athlete. She's super strong in every movement. I mean, unbelievably strong, guys. She's a 300-pound presser, overhead presser. She's going to be putting on a clinic at Raw Strength in Kalamazoo, and I just want to point that out because that is very exciting what they're doing down at Raw Strength in Kalamazoo right now. Everything. They're doing everything. They're trying to be a part of this lifting and fitness community, the strength community in large part, which I love. And we all need to rally behind that gym down there and participate in as many of these events as we can, because the only way these gyms hold on and do what they're doing is if we get behind them and be a part of what they're doing. And it means if you don't have anything going on a Saturday, pay $20, go down there and have a good time. I promise you'll enjoy it. Worst case scenario, you get to meet one of the best strong women in the nation, or whatever that cost is. It's worth it. But in any case, that's at Kalamazoo Raw Strength. That's the 28th of this month. I've got a lot of names of a lot of power lifters, and I'm going to keep going. I was going to give those names out to you guys today, that we've got a great contingency of Michigan lifters going down to the Arnold Classic to be a part of that USAPL event, I think USPA, and XPC, which is a geared event, right? Shirt, bench shirts, that kind of thing. For those of you that aren't familiar with that. The other side of powerlifting, which to me is the dark side, and it's the most entertaining side, honestly. These weights are sick. What these guys put up as geared lifters. They're all a little disturbed, meaning that there's some screws loose up here. I don't have to point out who I know in that group, but his name's Ben Pauli, and he's about as messed up as it gets when it comes to craziness for lifting heavy weight. And if you haven't seen guys like him compete in this geared lifting, if you haven't had an opportunity to spectate it, just get online and look at some of this stuff. And I promise you, if there's an event near you, you're going to want to see these guys compete. It is a lot of fun. And the amount of weight that they put their bodies under, geared or other, is just not human. It's really, really crazy feats of strength, over 1,000-pound squatting, up to 1,000-pound deadlifts, over 1,000-pound bench presses. I mean, it is just nuts, guys. And it was a late love in my life that I fell in love with that type of lifting, that part of powerlifting, simply because I never really understood it enough to appreciate what these guys do when it comes to lifting geared like that. And it is just amazing. And in itself is a very, very difficult thing to learn. It requires a ton of knowledge. It requires a ton of wonderful programming. I mean, that goes without saying, but certainly with geared powerlifting, programming is essential. I mean, essential. You are not programming yourself, and you're certainly not training by yourself. So it's a very exclusive club and a very exclusive fraternity and sorority. When you find these training groups and partners that you're working with, it's not only a commitment on their part to be able to there to support you, but it's also a commitment on your part that you won't leave them. So it's one of those things that it's a brotherhood, sisterhood type of thing that's very, very unique to the lifting community. And I encourage everybody, whether or not they choose to get involved in that type of lifting or not, just check it out, man. It is going to be amazing. So that was a big tangent from the XPC, but we have a lot of power lifters that are going to be a part of the Arnold Classic. And I got some names from Gina. I got some names from Ben. But I'm holding out a little bit because I want to try to make a point to mention all these names. So if there's people that are going down to compete at the Arnold Classic this year in any of those events, if you guys can reach out to me and let me know, and I'm actually going to throw something up on the IG page as well. I just like to know who these people are. I think it's great. I think that's a great event down there. All those events and all those different sports are, and to be a part of that is a big deal. It really is a big deal, guys. Most of these guys are invited to be there, if not all of them, as far as I know. And it is a very unique opportunity to be on a big stage like that and to compete against world-class people in your chosen sport and give yourself an opportunity to be noticed, because we all know who the Arnold winners are. We do. It's a shot heard around the world when a guy does really well at the Arnold or a gal does really well at the Arnold. And we have a lot of people from our state, no surprise, it's in Columbus, that are going to drive down there and be a part of that show. We also have the Highland Games guys, of course. Cameron Newkirk is going to be a part of that Highland Games event down there. He took second last year, or third, I think, Cameron. Third or second. He's looking to get first this year. He's a big dude, awesome Highland Games guy. I'd mentioned to you before I had an interview with him lined up, but we had to cancel it. I wasn't able to make it. Maybe that worked out the way it should have worked out. We'll get Cameron back in here before the Arnold or right after, whatever he wants to do. Maybe right after, right? I think he's going to win the damn thing. So I would like to talk with Cameron either before or after and get ready to hear what he's got going on this year. And hopefully there's a big win involved in that at the Arnold after we talk with him or before. But speaking of which, Highland Games, of course, is going to be coming up here. And you guys know that I will be talking the shit out of that. I cannot wait for Highland Games. My hip is better. My explosion is better. I am ready to perform at a very high level in Highland Games this year. And as soon as this weather breaks, I will be training my ass off to be ready to get out there and start throwing again. And I encourage all you guys that want to be a part of that in the state of Michigan as well to look up the Michigan Highlanders on Facebook. That's Michigan Highlanders. Reach out to Sarah Bivens, who runs that organization, and say, hey, I'm interested in Highland Games. Where do I start? And she's going to get you hooked up with this training group somewhere in the state, and she's going to get you all the information you need to start your journey to become a Highland Games competitor. All ages, all weight classes, doesn't matter. Weight has nothing to do with this. Men, women alike, and all experience. It doesn't matter. You'll learn it quick. And you'll find out real quick that no matter how badass you think you are or how strong you think you are, you better be humble. Bring that with you for sure, because there's experience goes a long ways in that sport, but it's nothing short of awesome when it comes to being able to just throw some heavy shit around. If you like lifting, you will certainly like Highland Games. And the pageantry of it is like no other. It's a great way to enjoy your summer on an off weekend. There's 7 or 8, maybe 9 events in Michigan, or very close to just over the border, Ohio and Indiana as well. And I know the Michigan Highlanders will be able to give you that information on all that stuff. And I'm actually looking forward to trying to do the Renaissance Festival this year and competing over there, or doing the exhibition type stuff. I just missed out on getting there last year because I was out of town that weekend. But that is something that I'm looking forward to doing, actually. I would love to be a part of that Renaissance Festival and those Highland Games guys that got there. It's too bad we can't get strongman in there, right? Maybe we did at one point. I think George would know that, or Barkley, or one of these guys, Brian. But that would be a great way to showcase strongman sports as well, doing a strongman competition at the Renaissance Festival. How much fun would that be? I know those spectators would absolutely love it. And you want to talk about a big crowd? Holy shit! I mean, I by accident, you'd have the biggest crowd that any strongman competition has ever seen in the Great Lakes, maybe besides the Great Lakes Strongest Man in Traverse City in September. But in any case, the bodybuilding calendar, of course, is coming out. I'm waiting for the Ironman date in Flushing, which is generally the first show of the year in April. I think it's the 3rd week of May, it generally is. And it's probably out. I just missed it, guys. I know the Grand Rapids NPC announced their day is on May 20th. They're starting to post stuff about that because, as you know, a lot of these bodybuilders are going to start getting into prep as well. And that shouldn't be if they're not, they're certainly starting it pretty quick. And most of them nowadays are kind of prepping year round anyhow. Expect to see a big class of bodybuilders this year in the state of Michigan. It seems to be growing. I know I said the shows aren't getting big, but boy, the competition sure is. And I'm going to have a guy on the show. I'm going to go down and see him February 1st, I think it is. We set up a time for me to go down and interview him at a local gym, and we'll set up the podcast for Fit, Jacked, and Stacked. And that's Dom Kuza. So those of you out there who are familiar with Dom Kuza, formerly a national level bodybuilder, arguably one of the best bodybuilding coaches in the state of Michigan. And he's got a pedigree, and boy, he's got a stable of competitors that are just amazing, including my friend Todd Whitting, who's IFBB Pro. Dom is that guy. He's that wizard of prep. He is the coach that you want when it comes to high level or any level for that matter. Dom will tell you I'll coach anybody, but certainly if you're one of those people that are looking to get to the next level, Dom's the kind of guy that's going to help foster that along for you. He's a capable person. So look forward to getting Dom on, and we'll have a lot of fun talking to him because, as you guys know, I wanted to bring on more bodybuilding, even though it's not my wheelhouse, but I enjoy it, and I have a great time talking about it. When I find stuff out, I'm going to start getting some more in-tuned people than me on this show, and that will be starting with Dom Kuza. Catch up with Todd soon, some of these Todd soon as well, along with some of these other IFBB pros this year. Get Stephanie Jones back on. Just was at the Olympia. She's one I want to talk to. Andrea Shaw, of course, Miss Olympia, right down Shelby Township area. We'll get her back on, do some satellite show with her maybe, and have a real good talk. Boy, she's maybe one of the nicest people ever in bodybuilding, as Miss Olympia repeatedly now. 3 times, right, Andrea? 3 times? Or is this 4? She's amazing. So in any case, we are so lucky for our bodybuilding scene here in Michigan. I cannot squander that opportunity. USAPL is kicking off their year in January 21st, which is next Saturday, guys, which will be this Saturday when you hear this show. Lost my voice there for a second. When you hear this show, and that is going to be on Goodrich High School. It's going to be at Goodrich High School. It's going to be this Saturday. I am going to be live streaming that for Gym Life Live. So if you want more information about that, just go to gymlifelive.com. That's gymlifelive.com. I'll also have Gina put up a link on Caioso as well. That's CALLOSO. That's her promotions company that she runs all the USAPL events through. She, of course, is the state chair of Michigan. We're going to be live streaming the entire season of USAPL meets throughout the state of Michigan, including state championships. This will be our first live stream. Now, we are going to be charging a little bit for that live stream because this stuff isn't free to travel around to get hotel rooms and all that. It's not get rich. That's a fact. But we're trying to make it really affordable for people. So I think what we're doing this year is we're going to sell the event by event, of course, which is fine. But we're also going to do like a season package. So you'll get like all 11 of the powerlifting meets, and most of the time people compete in more than one. So you'll be able to get all 11. I think it's going to be 11, including states this year. There could be one more or one less as a part of that package or membership to the live streaming for USAPL meets in Michigan this year. I think we'll charge like $20, $22 or something like that. Make it real cheap, man. So it's almost like $1 or $2 a show for the live streaming of it. And, trying to get to a point where we just cover our cost of travel and our hotel rooms. Last year, we didn't do that. I think we did it like once, and we just kind of worked out the math to try to get it to where we needed it to be able to get to these shows and, gas up the car and get a hotel room overnight. So in any case, if you guys want to check that out, go to gymlifelive.com. Shout out to a local gym. I haven't done that in a couple episodes, and a couple of you guys told me, hey, when are we going to start doing that again? Right now, Iron Sanctum. And I'm going to give that shout out to Gym Life's home gym. And that's right here in Flint, Michigan. Duante, who is my right-hand man / partner here at Gym Life Media. He's got his tasks at hand that he does, and I got mine, of course. And we are excited to, or he is, and I'm excited to share it with you. The Iron Sanctum is looking fantastic. It is what I'm calling Flint's newest training facility, albeit it's been here for about a year. Duante has put so much into this facility. It's got new lights now, which creates awesome ambiance. He got a new multi-station, like the best multi-station. He got a stair climber. He's bringing in all this new equipment. It's got strongman equipment and powerlifting equipment, bodybuilding, of course. He does group training sessions and individual coaching, and he's going to have other coaches there as well. He's really got a really unique gym. It's at a church, in a church steep, what do you call it? Like a worship room or inside the church itself, where the pews were removed, stained glass windows. It's got a really cool vibe. He calls it the Iron Sanctum. And it's cool that it's right here, right? I literally opened the podcast room door, walk down the hallway, down the steps, I'm right in the gym. So really nice to get a workout in. So, and actually too, I'll announce this now because I already talked him into it. Not that it took all of about 3 seconds, but we will be doing a powerlifting show at the Iron Sanctum sometime this year. Not sure with what organization or not. We actually had a quick conversation with Ben Pauly from RPG, so maybe Ben will help steer us in the right direction as far as that goes. But it's perfectly set up for that. When I say perfectly, guys, it is badass. It's got a great sort of stage set up for the equipment or the lifters. It's got a pew, upper pew, sort of looking over the area, which allows for spectating from above. So it's kind of ideally set up for a decent sized crowd, I'd say, and no worse off than anywhere else. And we'd like to have a fun powerlifting meet here this year. Strongman, not quite yet. There's not really a lot of space for that. But in any case, shout out to Duante and the Iron Sanctum here in Gym Life Media's home gym. So there's your shout out today for that. But anyhow, if you guys have any questions or anything you want to pass along to me, please do. I'm here for you all the time on Instagram at Fit Jacked and Stacked or Fit Stacked and Jacked. Also, Gym Life Media on YouTube, or not YouTube, excuse me. Gym Life Media on YouTube to watch all of our content. Spotify, all the listening platforms, of course. And you can always go to Facebook at Gym Life Media. I will ask you guys to do me one favor. Please subscribe. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Really, really appreciate it. It just gives us an opportunity to reach out maybe to some sponsors in the future to help support some of these ideas that we have. This is not a get rich quick, nothing. This is just try to cover costs and provide you guys with more and more content, which of course is travel for us and that sort of thing. So if we show we have listeners, we show people that are supporting this, we're going to be able to do more stuff for you. Also, too, one last announcement. I'm going to be making the winners announcements, which I know I'm a week late. I get it. Sorry, it was busy, guys. But we have the Fit Fuel Box winners, the Jekyll and Hyde winners, and the NDSN winners for our post-holiday or holiday giveaway that I told you I was going to announce the first week of January. It's just going to be next week or this week coming up. So I'll do a special video getting those winners out to all you guys out there. So in any case, thank you so much for joining me today. It's going to be a lot of fun coming up this year. And I'm glad all you guys are here supporting Fit Jack and Stack, Gym Life Podcast, and Gym Life Media. Couldn't do it without you. Stay strong.